All right, folks, this is the one and the only Warwolf howling at ya. Or at least making it look like I'm howling at you. I don't care which. What do you want to go with? But we got a couple of things happening tonight. First off, this is my second Dynamite review. I'm still refining this, so bear with me, folks. We're going to have a lot less in the way of images tonight because I've decided that's what we're going to be doing. So, first off, let's take a look at Dynamite. AEW Dynamite is probably the only image we're going to see tonight. All right, so let's take a quick look at this whole thing because this was a hell of a. This was, of course, Kansas City, Missouri. It is March 22nd, 2023. It is my second video. Let's enjoy this, or at least try to. We got ourselves starting out with basically the Young Bucks getting carted off in ambulances. Basically, we have no idea exactly what happened. Later on in the show, we find out that Brandon Cutler, who did go with the Young Bucks along with Adam Page to the hospital, that he is accusing the Blackpool Combat Club of having been behind the attack. I kind of believe it, considering what happened the rest of the night. And that's saying quite a lot. All right, so first match, we got ourselves Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, and Sting. This is the first time we've seen Sting inside in the ring for a while, and first time we've seen him in a match in a while. Who are they up against? Kip Sabian, The Butcher, and The Blade. Now, I gotta say this right now. They kept talking about a trios title situation. I don't know if that means that this is potentially a spot in the rankings, potentially being on the line for potentially a chance to become the World Trios Champions. I don't know. They weren't exactly clear about this. It's just the way they went with the studio, basically saying, talk about the trios titles, I guess. So they did mention it a couple of times, but despite that, it's not a title match. So we got some great back and forth. They reference the feud between Kip Sabian and Orange Cassidy. They did fight over what was then the All-Atlantic Championship, now the International Championship. They also announced, during this match, two other matches that did happen later on in the night. Tag team titles were going to be up for grabs. The Guns were taking on Top Flight. That ended up being a great match. Hook taking on Stokely Hathaway in a no DQ match. So let's get right into the match. We got some great moments here back and forth. All six men getting to show themselves off. Some of the better highlights, I thought. Probably was also the silliest moment of the night. We've seen how Orange Cassidy will do some weird things in the ring, including last week when he just kind of started very slowly rolling away when he saw somebody going up to the top rope to do a move. And Sting kind of pulled this same stunt on Kip Sabian. So that was hilarious. Absolutely, made me laugh. Basically, we got a little bit of a moment also where Sting kind of did that whole little thing where he just kind of taps, an opponent with his feet, very much reminiscent of Orange Cassidy. That is one of his signature little moves. Sabin and company took over. Sabin, I think it's Sabin, and the Butcher and the Blade, during their picture-in-picture break, they did get the upper hand. However, as they came back, we got a double spear, basically, by Darby Allin into the Butcher and the Blade. And basically after that, he got a tag into Orange Cassidy. Then Sting eventually tagged in after a few minutes of that. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Sting, during this moment, basically channeling Cassidy. We get a pair of stunners hit on Kip Sabian. And then Sting getting the 3 with a Scorpion Death Drop. That's pretty damn impressive in and of itself, because let's call a spade here. Sting has not wrestled in a singles match in a long while, and it's been even less time since we've seen him in tag or trios action. So I'm glad to see Sting back in the ring, although I will admit there were a couple of moments where it seemed like his timing was off. For example, there was a moment during the match in his first tag in, and I think it was against either the Butcher or the Blade. I really have a hard time telling those two apart. But he goes to block a right hand, and it really felt like his timing was slightly off. And I don't know if this is because he's been away from the ring for basically the last couple of months, or if this is just his age finally starting to catch up with him. It could be either one. But, I mean, for a man his age, for him to still be able to move as well as he does, and Sting is in like his, I'm not sure if it's his 50s or his 60s, I'll have to double check that, but for his age, yeah, he's moving very, very well, and we know that Sting has had issues with, I believe it's at least one leg, but he's managed to stay reasonably healthy throughout the majority of his career, and I think that is what's kind of helped him to keep being able to wrestle so many years later when, let's be honest, most wrestlers aren't just well past their prime, they're largely retired. So, good on Sting for being able to stay healthy. Personally, I'd love to see Sting get one more championship run, whether it's a tag run, a trios title run. I mean, hell, as crazy as it sounds, give him the AEW title, let him have one last big top run, even if it's only for a few weeks, maybe a month. I mean, it'd be stupid. It would kind of be going backwards, admittedly, because we do want to see new homegrown talent develop and become a champion in the companies in which they are developed. But let's be honest, you know, I mean, if Sting can still go, give him like a 1 or 2 month reign before, you know, having him basically, you know, retire. And I don't care. It doesn't have to be a world title. Give him the international title. Give him the TNT championship. I mean, for God's sake, the man was part of TNT and TBS for years. So let's be honest, it's like, it would fit. So we also got the announcement of the next big AEW pay-per-view right after this match. That's Double or Nothing. And that's going to be May 28th. We got a bit of hype for the situation with the world title that we saw last week. Of course, that was MJF coming out for his rebar mitzvah. And then he gets confronted by Jungle Boy, by Darby Allin, and Sammy Guevara. I'm really curious to see how this is going to play out. I think they're going Fatal 4-Way, but this could be something else entirely. Maybe they're going to do some kind of a gauntlet. I don't know. I mean, a gauntlet match would be an interesting change of pace, but the question would be, you know, would they have MJF start out the night and go through all three challengers, or would they have one of the three challengers start the match and go through the other three, potentially with MJF coming in at the end? Either way, I don't think MJF is losing the belt, even if this is what they go with. So, second match of the night, they already are going right at it full bore. We're getting the Guns versus Top Flight. So let me remind you all, for those of you who are not aware of this, Top Flight are brothers and so are the Guns. So this is where we got the moment where Brandon Cutler was stated to have accused the Blackpool Combat Club. 1 second, folks. Sorry about that, had a sneeze going. Anyway, this is where Brandon Cutler was stated by the announce team to have accused the Blackpool Combat Club of attacking the Bucks. And this was done while they were making time to cover the entrances for the young, I almost said the Young Bucks, the Guns and Top Flight. And again, Darius and Dante Martin, I got to admit, these guys, I want to see them as tag team champions sooner rather than later, because, like, these guys, when they came into the company, the first time I saw them, I was absolutely flabbergasted by how good they were. Dante Martin has been doing very well in singles competition. His brother Darius was forced to take time off due to injury. I forget exactly what happened, but he was gone for almost a year and a half. And Dante really proved himself, and I really want to see this guy, find some kind of success in AEW, whether it's in the singles or the tag division or even the trios division alongside his brother and AR Fox. Holy God, give this man a title. This is another one of those guys where I want to see him, be a champion. And I don't care. Like, these guys are, in their early 20s. I think Dante is the older brother, but it could be Darius. I don't know. They're only, a year or two apart from each other. And one of them, I think, was only, 19, and the other was 20 years old. So, it sounds like they didn't even go to college. They just jumped right into professional wrestling. If that is the case, holy God, I really hope that they do have a chance to make it long term, because these guys are great. When I first saw them come in, it's again, they call themselves Top Flight. I believe it. With some of the stunts these guys have pulled, I believe it, and I want to see more of it. So, anyway, the Darius and Dante Martin, they get the big lead at the very beginning of this match. But then we get a quick hair pull coming in by, I forget if it was Austin or Colton. I'm still having a hard time learning who those two are. The only reason I was able to generally figure out who was who later on during the night was the fact that, Colton, I think, has the weird braided ponytail. Darius managed to get in after a tag, pulled this beautiful standing fly on Colton. Great move there. Sammy Guevara may be the one that most people know the Spanish Fly best for in AEW, but he doesn't have the market on it. And again, this wasn't from the top rope. This was literally a move he did from the ring canvas. He literally did this almost center ring. Beautiful move, standing Spanish Fly, absolutely awesome. He almost got the win off of this. What is it? Dante basically pulled this move he calls the nosedive, or maybe it's just the announcers calling it the nosedive. This bit where he jumps from rope to rope and then attacks his opponents, and he almost got the win on that. It was phenomenal. Colton saved the match for him and his brother. Then we get an appearance by the Kingdom. Now, I'm not sure what's going on here. I think they're setting up another feud, which, at least they're giving these guys something to do. They made a mention to something that happened on a show over on Ring of Honor, so maybe there's something going on there that I'm not seeing, because I haven't seen the Ring of Honor stuff out, because I have not watched Honor Club or whatever it is that they're doing for the streaming there. I know that there's talk about shopping Ring of Honor to another company, but, honestly, why not just put the damn thing on another day on either TNT or TBS? Because Lord only knows, another hour or 2 hours of wrestling, I would be all for it. So then we get FTR. Now, FTR, of course, came out last week, really, hyping up the fact that they're supposed to, be challenging for the tag team titles, and that's exactly what we got tonight. So the Guns start running their mouths, and basically, I believe it's Dax Harwood, who basically gets them more or less to just shut their mouths by saying, you know what? We want a title shot, and if we lose, we'll leave AEW. The Guns were more than willing to take that deal. And again, we'll have to see what this happens to end up going with. Because again, we could see the idea that FTR leaving AEW means they're just going to Ring of Honor. Again, they've been Ring of Honor tag champions. They had a great feud with the Briscoes on and off over the years. But the rumor I keep hearing is that FTR will be the ones eventually to get their hands on the tag team titles, taking them off the Guns. It would make great sense from a storyline perspective. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. And one thing I do want to point out, now, I don't know if this was the case last week. I'd have to go back and check the my screenshots and everything. But has anybody else noticed this? The ring ropes for AEW, at the very least for this week, and I don't know if this is going to be something they're going to continue with. I hope they do. They have changed the colors of the ropes. They are now red, white, and blue. So believe it or not, they are actually echoing the WWE from their days in the 1980s as the World Wrestling Federation. I'm all for this. I love seeing the red, white, and blue ropes. You know, call me old-fashioned, but when you grow up seeing, you know, your country's flag colors on the ropes like that, you kind of get to the point where even years later, like, it still feels right. I was never a big fan of WWE switching out to first the red ropes, then the black ropes, then the gold ropes. They've gone with all these other colors, which is fine, but I'll be honest, I miss the red, white, and blue of Old Glory, and whether or not this was a one-off or not, I mean, it was a great moment. I'm absolutely, you know, over the moon that AEW did it. It took me a while to actually notice it because I'm so used to the ropes being so many other different colors, I didn't even think about it. But lo and behold, classic American colors on the ropes. I want to see more of it. I hope they're going to continue that. Next, we got a hype up for Taya Valkyrie. And, you know, Jade Cargill cuts this pretty lame promo. It's like, oh, wow, I'm going to have my lawyer say you can't use my move. It's like, you really think that's going to matter? It's professional wrestling. This kind of thing happens all the time. So Layla Gray challenges Taya to show up on Rampage, which is going to be on Saturday this particular week. So there you go. I don't know if that's going to be an official match, but we do know that is, I think actually that is going to be an official match, but we know that is the challenge that she laid down. Next, we got Hook versus Hathaway. This was set up basically 2 weeks ago. Matt Hardy challenged Hook, said basically, hey, you win, you get Hathaway in a no DQ match, and the entirety of the firm is barred from ringside. Well, that happened last week. Matt Hardy tapped out almost immediately to the Red Rum. And I'll be honest, it's like Stokely's intro is hilarious. It's like, I may not be as big as the men I manage, but I've got the heart of a giant or something to that effect. It was bizarre. Absolutely hilarious. It was stupid. But, I mean, to be fair, it was funny. I like that AEW is doing a little bit of these things with more than just Kenny Omega's entrance. I mean, Kenny Omega's introductions are always, you know, hilarious when he's on singles, but this, I'll admit, this got a chuckle out of me. But let's be honest, you know, for something like that, to give it to basically like a heel manager that, like, isn't really that big of a name outside of AEW. In fact, actually, even in AEW, a lot of people are still trying to figure out who this guy is supposed to be. It was funny. It worked. So, Hook comes down to the ring, and then Hathaway starts running his mouth and goes, I have a doctor's note saying I'm not medically cleared. Oh, and I'm retiring! Yeah, not only did that not work, his doctor's note actually turned out to be a shopping receipt. I'm not even kidding. This was like the second dumbest thing I've seen in professional wrestling in a while. I'm not quite sure what the first is at this point, but yeah, second dumbest at least in a while. So yeah, not only does that not work, basically Hook spends most of the match running roughshod on the guy, and you can tell at this point he's just enjoying beating the living hell out of him. I'll give Hathaway credit. Somehow he managed to find a fire extinguisher under the ring. Used it on Hook, but thankfully did not end up, getting, too much of a good shot at him. Didn't get it into his eyes or anything, thank God. Tried to follow up with a tear shot. That did not work. Remember, this is no DQ. Hook basically grabbed the chair away from him, retaliated with it. Does a beautiful exploder onto a steel barricade, bends the damn thing. You would have thought, like, oh, that's right there. That's got to be the pinfall. Nope. He does go for a pinfall, but literally lifts him up at 2, just so he can put him in the Red Rum. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Red Rum is, it is literally the old Taz mission, also known as the Kata Hajime, I do believe. I think. Somebody's going to have to double check that. I'm going to have to double check that. But, yeah. it's almost an immediate win after that. That's pretty much it. So, I mean, that was pretty damn fun. I mean, it was a squash match, let's be honest. This was basically just meant to, almost to be an homage, I think, to the ideas of days when, heel managers would get themselves in over their heads and they just get crushed by a top face. And I think that's exactly what happened here. It kind of reminds me of things that used to happen with Bobby the Brain Heenan a lot. I don't know if that's meant to be an homage to Bobby the Brain, but good Lord. I mean, if it isn't, it's a pretty damned impressive coincidence. So next we move into a promo with Adam Cole. Cole is finally back in wrestling after being out for several months with injury. And he comes down to the ring. He's getting ready to hype up, hey, who's my opponent going to be for my big return? He doesn't even get to name his own opponent. Daniel Garcia comes down to the ring. They start jaw-jacking. And Cole says, you know what? If you're crazy enough to take me on in the ring in 7 days, I'll be right here to kick your ass. I like the setup. I like the fact that during Garcia's part of the promo, he almost calls himself a professional wrestler. Now remember, this has been part of the storyline for the Jericho Appreciation Society, is that they consider themselves, quote-unquote, sports entertainers. Garcia almost calls himself a pro wrestler. Has to catch himself. Even the announcers, Tony Schiavone specifically, caught this, and he did make a point to bring this up. I think we could be seeing either the beginning or the end of the JAS, or we're going to see them make a shift to just saying, you know what, screw it, we're professional wrestlers and we're some of the best in the business. Because, let's be honest, the main reason they were doing the whole sports entertainer thing was kind of a mean-spirited shot at WWE, because they've been calling professional wrestling sports entertainment for years. But now with Triple H more or less in charge over in WWE, the words professional wrestler aren't really taboo anymore. So maybe they're kind of moving past that? I don't know. They hyped up our main event, I know I'm going to butcher this, but it's supposed to be Kenny Omega versus El Hijo del Vikingo? I'm going to butcher that very, very badly. And I know I'm going to butcher that very, very badly. So I'm just going to call him Vikingo. Or Vikingo, whatever. It's going to make things a lot easier for me. They mentioned that a local artist, I think he's a rap artist, someone called Tech9 was apparently in the crowd. So, okay, congratulations. I don't follow rap, so I don't really know the name, but glad to see that AEW is picking up some fans from outside, the industry, or outside, civilian fans. So then we get a backstage segment where Kenny Omega is shown backstage. He's absolutely frantic about his friends, because remember, the Young Bucks, Adam Page, longtime friends of his, of course, in the case of Page, friend turned adversary. And we don't know what their situation is right now. I guess the Bucks stayed friends with both of them? It's a whole thing. I'm not even entirely sure where to go with that. Don Callis basically tries to get him amped up for his match against Vikingo. So, pretty damned impressive work on Don Callis' part. I mean, I got to give him credit. He was right. Dude's got to focus. Make sure that he's ready to go for this match against, Vikingo, who they hype as a dream match. And then we get the Blackpool Combat Club. Now, the BCC were accused earlier by proxy through Brandon Cutler via the announcer saying, well, Brandon has accused them of being the ones who attacked, the Young Bucks. Well, considering what we would see later on in the night, I kind of tend to believe them. So the Blackpool Combat Club comes down. Dark Order shows up. It's Moxley versus Stu Grayson. And again, great match. Stu Grayson, a phenomenal talent. I really think it's going to be, a relatively quick period of time. But at some point, we're going to see him with a championship. And again, I'd love to see it be the trios title, the tag belts, a singles championship. Again, this is another one of those individuals who, like Dante Martin, give the man a damn title. We know he can run with it. We've seen what this guy can do. So Mox and Grayson have a phenomenal match. They're just going at it, back and forth, pulling moves on each other that probably would put most people away. At some point during the match, like literally Mox just starts egging Grayson on. It's like, hit me, and give Grayson all the credit in the world. He rises to the occasion. They start just pounding on each other. And again, I love the development of the story. I really want to see where it goes. I mean, the weird thing is like, technically the Blackpool Combat Club are supposed to have technically turned heel, but you wouldn't know it at this point. I mean, the crowd is pretty much split 50-50 between both of these organizations. It's absolutely phenomenal, and I'm loving it. Say what you want. I mean, we still don't know what's going on with Bryan Danielson. We don't know if he's really left AEW. Again, I think we're going to see a storyline where he comes back, probably, at Double or Nothing to say, yeah, I'm not done yet. I want a shot, and probably going to their anniversary show. I don't know. There's no way to be sure at this point. We get a moment where there's a beautiful Uranagi move on Moxley. He does a corkscrew splash from the ropes, but he only gets a 2 count out of it. Again, Grayson is phenomenally agile for a man his size. I want to see more of this guy. Honestly, again, I would love, like in a match of high flyers, I would love to see, Grayson versus Dante Martin at some point, because while Martin is definitely the more polished high flyer, give all the credit in the world to both men. They could put on a hell of a match. I'd love to see it. So during this match, after the corkscrew splash, Grayson takes out Yuta and Claudio on the outside, goes for a 450 splash, only gets a 2 count. Mox actually caught him in the Bulldog Sleeper. But here's the thing. He then switched to an S-grip, like a standard sleeper, which was kind of interesting. It cost him. Mox ended up going back first into the buckles. And again, all the credit in the world to Stu Grayson. I thought that he had him at that point. He stayed in it. But ultimately it was too much. And, Mox nails a Death Rider off the top rope. Yeah, you heard me right. From the top rope. That is pretty damned impressive on any level. Mox gets the 1, 2, 3. And then, basically, the BCC jump into the ring very briefly. But Dark Order's immediately there to stop them from doing anything. BCC, they walk off. Then we get a quick promo by Ricky Starks on Juice Robinson. He's saying, hey, face me at Rampage. We'll have to wait and see if he does. And it's kind of an interesting development there. I'm not really sure if they're really going to turn that into a full-on feud. If maybe they're going to bring in the Bullet Club and maybe, Starks is going to have to reach out to some allies. Who knows? I mean, at this point, actually, come to think of it, has anybody seen Action Andretti? I don't know. We got another segment for QTV. Not really sure if there's a point to this. I think this is just meant to be a hype machine for Powerhouse Hobbs. They talk about Rey Fenix being defeated on Rampage. Of course, I did miss that this past Friday. I do apologize. I'm not necessarily always going to do Rampage, but I'm going to try to do Dynamite at least every now and then. apparently, Penta El Cerro Miedo, a.k.a. Pentagon Dark, a.k.a. Pentagon Jr., is going to end up fighting Hobbs this coming Saturday, which, again, is a special time for Rampage. I'm not sure what that's all about. And that will be for the TNT title. Next, we get a women's match, Toni Storm versus Sky Blue. A bit of a note from me, I was not really aware of this. Toni Storm is Australian. Not really a particularly noteworthy thing, I suppose, but I've been trying to place her accent for a while. So, there you go. We get some great back and forth again. Toni Storm basically, ties up Sky with a couple of moves, but Sky comes right back. Ultimately, Saraya and Ruby Soho get involved on the outside during a moment when the referee was distracted, and then they continue doing a little bit of crazy stuff on the outside. Toni Storm ends up hitting the post with a knife-edge chop after hitting 2 shots on Sky. Basically, Sky ducks out of the way. She goes to whack Toni, but ends up getting Ruby. It's kind of crazy. Ruby distracts the referee. Later on in the match, Toni wins after, I just gonna call it a short drop pile driver. It's like, she didn't even fully, happen to be standing. It was like, she was, halfway crouched over, got her in position for a pile driver, and just dropped. Well, there you go. The Outcast, that's Toni Storm, Saraya, and Ruby Soho, getting ready to spray paint, Sky Blue. Again, I've got some NWO vibes off of this, but they're really not the NWO, so whatever. But Willow Nightingale and Riho come out to make the save. Riho coming out with a lead pipe. I guess she's kind of pissed. So, yeah, that happened. Not long after that, we see Stu Grayson being attended to by some of the medical stuff. Strange enough, they're not in the trainer's room. But, okay, whatever. Blackpool Combat Club shows up and just beats the crap out of him. Kind of seeming to potentially validate the claims that they may have been the ones who attacked the Young Bucks. Honestly, these guys, I feel, have a little bit more of an NWO vibe at this point. This is the kind of thing the NWO would have done back in the day. So then we get our big main event. Kenny Omega versus, again, I'm probably butchering this. If so, I apologize. El Hijo del Vikingo. And so 2 things. First off, the guy is wearing the logo from what looks to be the Vikings TV show on his back. That's pretty cool. But secondly, am I the only one who looked at this guy and said, holy crap, why is he dressed like Sokka from The Last Airbender? I swear to God, this guy looked exactly like Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I'm talking the original animated show, not that god-awful movie by M. Night Shyamalan. I swear to God, my first thought is, oh my God, it's Sokka in live action. So, one thing that I did want to bring up, again, we talked about this a little earlier with the Stokely Hathaway thing. The Kenny Omega single match entrance stuff is hilarious. All the credit in the world to Justin Roberts, the Dapper Yapper. I still laugh every time I hear her say that, but okay. But, yeah, I don't know what his obsession with North Carolina is, but yeah, Omega's got this bizarre obsession with North Carolina, and it's in his intro every time, and I don't get it. But it is hilarious. I've got to give it. It's hilarious. So Vikingo, he jump starts the whole thing Bell hasn't even rung, and he's basically just attacking, Omega from the outside during the ring entrance for Kenny Omega. And I got to give him credit. That's a pretty impressive move. And even the announcers were kind of saying that was a smart thing to do, because Omega, when he's on his game, and he already wasn't on his game with the whole situation with the Young Bucks, because again, they are some of his best friends. He was upset that he didn't go with them. And again, Callis had to point out, hey, you've got a match tonight. Now, both of these guys have a relationship involving the AAA Mega Championship. Now, I'm assuming this is some kind of equivalent to maybe WWE's Undisputed Championship. I don't know that much about the promotions in Mexico, but they called it the Mega Championship. Apparently, Kenny Omega held this and never actually lost it. Apparently, he was forced to forfeit it due to the same injury that forced him to effectively drop the AEW World title. Whatever. Omega was the champion. Vikingo is the champion right now. I don't know. We're going to see potentially if that leads to him, regaining the belt at some point. Great back and forth again between these guys. I know I've been saying that a lot, but there's so much going on here, I can't really say it any other way than that. One of the things I absolutely loved in the early part of the match, this is crazy. Vikingo does a shooting star press from the apron to the floor on Kenny Omega. That is impressive in and of itself. Could not have been easy on the man's knees, wrists, or elbows. And of course, all the credit in the world to Omega for taking it on the floor, because that's literally like a man of like 200-300 pounds coming down on you. And that can't be any good for even the guy taking it, because again, there's not a lot of give in the mats that are laid around on the floor. You can hear like sickening splat on that landing, And that was with him actually landing on Omega. So we got, later on in the match, we get a beautiful tilt-a-whirl backbreaker by Omega. He gets a 2 count. But, obviously doesn't get the victory. At some point, he just pulls out a table for some friggin' reason. I'm not sure what the hell this was all about. It was just something they were setting up. I don't know, maybe it was to say that, Omega is a little bit more, angry at the situation with the Young Bucks, and he just wants to get this over with. I don't know. We get another set of classic maneuvering between both of these guys. Both guys showing off exactly why they are former champions or current champions, as the case may be. Vikingo hits a head scissors. Both men, end up on the outside to the ropes, where Omega nailed a monkey flip on Vikingo. The crowd said it. I'm going to repeat it because I agree with them completely. Holy shit. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do a monkey flip to somebody else while they're both on the apron like that. I mean, that is bizarre. And again, Vikingo took that and came back from it. That's damned impressive. So he basically then tried to Snapdragon Vikingo. It got turned around, and then Vikingo nailed a Dragon Rana on Omega, sending him to the floor. Damned impressive. Omega attempts to go for a power bomb. He gets countered into a Frankensteiner and somehow kicks out of it. Because that was not an easy move to pull off. And the landing looked like, holy crap, that should have been the end of it. Yeah. Omega managed to nail 2 power bombs and a V-trigger. Vikingo kicks out. 2 power bombs and a V-trigger. And he couldn't put him away. Then we get a Snapdragon, followed by a V-trigger. So Omega is not playing around here. Okay? He gets ready to set up for the One-Winged Angel. and it's countered. That is very rare. I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've seen that, pretty much at what seemed like it would have been the end of a match. And it's very rare. Like early on in the match, sure. But during a match where it looks like this has got to be the end, boom, no, V-trigger countered. Holy crap. Right? Well, it gets crazier. Omega ends up rolled onto that table that he brought out and gets hit with a 630 senton. The crowd had another chant during this match. This is awesome. Again, they nailed it. Looked like we were going to get a double count out, but they both managed to beat this particular count back into the ring. Vikingo, credit where it's due, goes immediately for the pin as soon as they both get back in. Only gets it 2. He tries for another 630, misses it. Another V-trigger. And then to put the exclamation point on it, one-winged angel. 3 count and Omega wins. Right? Then we get Tony Schiavone coming down to the ring. He's getting ready to interview Omega, who starts cutting a promo. Here comes the Blackpool Combat Club. Right? Like I said before, I would believe it if you told me that the Blackpool Combat Club were the ones who would attack the Young Bucks. We still don't know who actually did it, but we know who's been accused of it. Well, here comes the sirens over probably the sound system, but definitely piped into the sounds for, anybody watching the show on TV. Adam Page has stolen an ambulance and comes back carrying a 2x4 with nails sticking out of one end. And he basically runs off the Blackpool Combat Club. Then for some reason, Don Callis basically acts like, oh, I just got hit by the 2x4. I don't know what the hell's going on here. I'm honestly not sure what's happening. I don't know if this is because we're going to see a split between Omega and Callis. Now, Don Callis has been with him since he basically defeated Jon Moxley. In fact, he was part of the reason why he did defeat Jon Moxley to become world champion about 2 years ago. 2.5, whatever it was. And, I'm still not sure what this is all about. And the weird thing is Omega buys it. Omega actually buys this. It's like, literally, you got Adam Page staring down the Blackpool Combat Club. There isn't a single mark on Callis. And he's pointing at Page like, he hit me. It's like, what? Just what? I mean, how is he supposed to prevent Omega from seeing the replay of this next week? Or even later on in the week? I mean, I'm really curious to see where this story is going to go. This is just bizarre. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know if he doesn't want having Adam Page potentially being part of the Elite again. I don't know if this is a sign that maybe he's going to join the Blackpool Combat Club. I got nothing on this, but this was a phenomenal event, from top to bottom. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Jade Cargill, and the Toni Storm segment was lackluster, but it was still, decent enough that I could watch it. It wasn't god-awful. But, yeah. So, let's look at it from this perspective. From a wrestling standpoint, this was a great show. From a fan standpoint, I think everybody had a great time in the arena. I enjoyed watching it. I don't know what the wrestlers thought, but from a storyline perspective, a couple of things. So let's talk about this. No appearances by Jungle Boy or Sammy Guevara. I think they might have had other obligations, or they might have matches on Rampage. I don't know yet. I'll have to go back and double check. We're going to have to wait and see, again, what happens as far as the world title match situation goes. I would love to see it be a fatal 4-way. We did see the promos by all three men, but Darby Allin we already had seen in the very beginning of the show. his whole thing was pre-recorded for that. So again, technically, we did not see two of these three men in the show proper. We also didn't see MJF other than the footage that was apparently used from last week as part of this video package for this week. So whether this is basically he's going to start trying to go through all of these guys and end up with one major challenger at Double or Nothing, or if it's a gauntlet match or it's a fatal four-way, I don't know. But I'm really curious to see how it goes. Very, very curious. I don't know what else is going on, but this was Dynamite for this week. I certainly enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, let me know what you thought. I'd love to get some comments. I'll try to respond to some if I get any. By the way, apparently the United States Postal Service is hiring. How do I know this? Somebody was literally holding up a sign saying this during Dynamite. I know this is a complete non sequitur, and I know it means nothing to anybody, but that was kind of funny. And I just felt like it needed to be addressed because it was probably the silliest sign I'd seen all night. But, yeah. So that was Dynamite. I liked it. I thought it was an interesting event. And again, this is only my second review. I'm trying to, shape my format for how these reviews are going to go. I may have some screenshots sometimes. I may not. I may just create a couple of one-off screenshots for a couple of people and then just use those whenever I'm talking about them. I don't know. I'm still figuring all this out. Anyway, if you liked this video, give it a like, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell, and, share it with your friends. If you're a wrestling fan and you're just looking for, somebody out there just giving you their take, this is pretty much what you're getting. So, yeah. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, I'm glad you did. If you didn't, I'll try to do better next time, but the only way I can find out what works best and what doesn't is if I actually hear things back from you guys. So tell me what I'm supposed to be doing, or rather, tell me what you think you'd like to see, and I'll see what I can implement. I'm still learning OBS, so this is a very different situation. All I can say is, bear with me, folks. I'll figure it out as I go, and I'm sure you'll be enjoying it as we go as well. So that's pretty much it. Anyway, this is Warwolf howling at you one last time. Again, if you liked the video, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, share it with your friends, tell your friends all about it. It certainly helps me get more subscribers, and getting more subscribers is always good because the YouTube algorithm is a monstrously hungry beast. And quite frankly, I'd like to be able to start reaching a grander audience of wrestling fans, but I can only do that with your help. So, have a good night, and God bless.